My next guest has a lot of answers. Please welcome Rebecca Walser to the show. She's the president of Walser Wealth Management. Thanks for being on. I don't understand. Maybe I'm just stupid. But how in the heck are you going to decide what thunderstorm is because of climate change and what one isn't?
Yeah, so that's not going to be possible, right, Scott? Because you're exactly right. Science is not settled. And yet, if you listen to anyone who talks about global climate change, they say the science is settled. And we even had somebody say basically that they have the first page of all Google results and everything else, that the climate deniers are on page 2. So therefore, nobody will ever hear about it. So it's therefore settled science because they have this affiliation with Google. You know, Scott, this is sad. They're talking about this fund for losses and damages, floods, hurricanes, typhoons, anything that this industrialized nations have done through climate change that will have impacted these poorer nations. But, it's interesting to me, the poorer nations aren't necessarily as industrialized as the West and as the European nations, some of the Asian nations. So why are those nations necessarily the ones that are being damaged by climate change, unless we just are such big bullies and polluters that we've pushed everything all over the world, which apparently is their idea. But here's the thing, and I want to point this out, and I don't mean to be skeptical, but I'm a lawyer, so of course I question everything, right? And that's my training. If you look at what happened with the COVID government funding in just the United States, it came with a lot of strings. So the thing we need to look at here, Scott, is what are the agreements for this money? So if you look at the COVID requirements for school boards in America, for example, a lot of them accepted federal government aid specifically for coronavirus to retrofit the school, but it had very specific requirements. It wasn't just about buying, personal protective equipment. It was also about making sure that you had a mask policy that was enforced, making sure that you had social distancing policies in place. So in other words, the funding always comes with controlling requirements. And so what no one's asking, what we need to be looking behind the scenes is what is the agreement on these funds? Because I promise you, these poor countries are not getting a free lunch here. They are going to be handicapping themselves and their country's future development with some kind of sustainable energy initiatives that they have to agree to in order to accept these funds. And that's where the control comes in for these poorer countries that we need to really digest. Absolutely.
And another thing is that it's so disingenuous that all of these big shots from 200 different countries fly into these poorer countries. I think we had this COP27 was in Egypt. They're all flying private jets. I mean, it's like they're not even looking at themselves in the mirror, and they don't think anything about it. It's okay for them to fly the private jet, and how much carbon does that emit versus these poorer countries that don't, hardly any people in that country have a private jet. I mean, I just wonder does anybody just laugh at them? Because why are we listening to what they have to say? It seems ridiculous.
Scott, the irony that was lost on these leaders is pathetic. They literally had their meeting at a resort in the Red Sea region, literally in the Red Sea region. You cannot make this up. And, the thing that really was telling to me, besides the Wagyu and the frog wa that they had on their menu while they're telling us to eat bugs and they're trying to give us mealworms to our kids as lunch, items, what really bothers me is that these are the global 20 leaders of the 20 industrialized nations. This is G20, right? But who did they have and come speak to them other than the chief of the WEF, which is an NGO, a non-government organization? We know the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab went and spoke to these 20 leaders, telling them what the new way forward looks like. Now, here's a body of 20 people, most of them elected in some kind of process in their country, not just purely dictatorships. Even China has an election. Whether it's valid or not I don't know, but they have an election, right? So you have all these people, they're democratically elected, being lectured to by an NGO, non-elected policy body that's telling them what the way forward looks like with this public-private partnership. Who is this guy? And irony upon irony, Scott, the World Economic Forum literally 30 days ago sent out all of these press pieces about how they they didn't understand why they were being brought so to the forefront, that they were just a little policy, WEF, they're just nobody. They're not in a government. Why are they being so scrutinized? And then the very next month, he goes and tells the G20 leaders of the earth, who is non-elected, what the rest of the way forward is going to look like for the Green New Deal and the way forward. So this is an attack on democracy at the national level. This is trying to implement global policies that supersede national sovereignty, whether it be with ESG, as we know, or whether it be with WHO and the international health regulations that they are trying to basically redo, that will allow the WHO to have authority over sovereignty of nations. Right. This is all together. It's all by design, Scott. It's all coming for such a time as this. Yeah. And the fact that they're at the Red Sea is not lost on me.
The irony is they've lost the definition to irony. Okay, that's what I think. So this needs to be done by business leaders, not by politicians. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great Thanksgiving, Rebecca. Everybody loves you. You're a fan favorite. You've been fantastic all year. Rebecca Walser from Tampa, Florida. Thank you very much. All right. When I look at these markets, I look at my go-tos. That's gold, oil, the 10-year yield, and the